Hello, the following is a gesture production. Okay, so just a quick update because I wasn't able to do a second video um, this week, so I'm going to be doing second videos on Friday now. So this Friday, I will basically demonstrate how lactoferrin works in the body. Alright, so now we're going to the Convergence Part 7. Alright, so as you can see, if you want to go to my X and look at the Convergence Part 8, I decoded the Sumerian king list. Next Monday I'll be talking about that. But today we're going over the Convergence Part 7, the Pyramid Grid. Okay. This I thought was very interesting. So I truly think the Atlanteans built the pyramid grid, but I think that the Egyptians were probably maybe the closest thing to maybe former Atlanteans. Although Gilgamesh may have been part of that too. And then his knowledge went down to Egypt. But anyway, I'm not trying to solve that right now. Let's get into, okay, so what were the pyramids for? It was a worldwide frequency grid that amplified Earth's natural electromagnetic field, supported higher consciousness, maintained portal access. In other words, the Earth is just like, it's wrapped in a lot of different frequencies. And our consciousness is basically the tuner to that frequency. So the higher the frequency, the better the life on Earth. And this Earth is a very low vibrational frequency. Okay? But we're trying to change that. But we got to understand. Okay, so maintain portal access, sustained biology. And we can barely imagine today. But when the moon arrived, as in the previous article, the greatest achievement to the pre-catastrophe world became its extinction mechanism. Because, and think about this, the pyramids didn't stop working when the moon arrived. They inverted. And the civilization that built them was killed by their own technology. So, that's why the pyramids are turned off. Or that's why they probably had to turn off the pyramids, because the frequency, because when they brought the moon, it disrupted the frequency, and there was a lot of changes at that younger dry stage. I mean, oxygen levels dropped and a whole bunch of other things. We're just not talking about climate change, we're talking about, like, basically a whole new Earth. So the pyramids exist all over the world, but only the Egyptians have ones perfectly sharp apexes, the point at the tops. Everyone else built flat tops. And there's a reason, and the reason that I'm getting this is from a recent engineering analysis suggests that the Great Pyramid wasn't built, and there's a reason for this that we'll get into here soon, but and another issue is the Great Pyramid wasn't built bottom up with massive ramps. It was carved top down. Start with an overbuilt trapezoid mass, okay, with integrated gentle wraps. In other words, if you build the trapezoids, you can build the ramps on the pyramid to where it goes on the pyramid and kind of like wraps around it. Okay. And then they carve the final shape with precision. So, and then they would recycle the excess stone for the next pyramided sequence and so forth, because there's 3 pyramids. So this solves one of the biggest engineering nightmares, hitting a razor-sharp apex 480 feet in the air. A tiny error at the base explodes into a massive deviation at the top. Top-down carving gives full edge visibility and constant alignment checks from a stable check. The Great Pyramid's apex is an accurate to 1/15th of a degree. The base is a near perfect square. The whole structure aligns to true north with 1/15th of a degree. That level of precision only makes sense if the apex was the critical transmission point. Okay, so now we're going into the sharp versus the flat, the transmitter versus the receiver. Okay, so the Egyptian pyramids have that little point. Okay, so the geometry focuses energy into a power standing wave node at the apex, broadcasting amplified frequency outward. Flat top pyramids, Mesoamerica, China, ziggurats, etc., receivers and relays. So in other words, the Egyptian one sends out the signal and the other one receives it. Now, I would be interested to know if maybe around some of those flat top pyramids that there might be a few other pointy ones, maybe near or around, especially if it's near an ocean, because I'm not for sure of the range that the Egyptian pyramids would have. So basically, they would broadcast the frequencies, and the flat tops would channel it. Okay, with the second light active, even imperfect flat tops work. The dual frequency interference is compensated for geometry flaws. When the moon blocked the second light, only the sharp Egyptian pyramids retained partial function. The rest went dark. That's why Egypt alone appears to have achieved miraculous advancement. And so the pyramids in Egypt, even when the moon came, may have been able to maintain something. And I'm wondering if maybe that's possibly what the Ark of the Covenant is, what they took, what the maybe the Israelites took out of Egypt to destroy that. Not so sure on that one yet. I gotta look more into that. But okay, so how the grid supported life, the functioning. Okay, so it amplified Earth's natural EM field, and this created a high coherence zones where the Schumann resonance was stronger and more stable. Cellular water structure more efficiently. Remember when I was talking about the cholesterol thing, but your skin kind of turns, when sunlight hits your skin, it turns it into this easy water. Okay, so it would support that more efficiently. And cholesterol synthesis and hormone production optimized. Gene expression responded to EM input, and EM, is electromagnetic. And then we would be able to have crystal blood biology remain viable. So the grid, it was to support it was a planetary life support system for a higher frequency biology. Okay, so a different type of technology. Okay, so when the moon started arriving around close to 13,000 BCE, the pyramids didn't shut off. They amplified whatever that frequency, the dominant frequency was present. So now if the moon, okay, so that I would say this is possibly when they were first seeing the moon. Like maybe the picture at Göbekli Tepe wasn't a picture of a comet. What if it was a picture of the moon arriving and the frequency shift occurring? And I kind of have a yin and yang theory here that possibly every maybe 14,400 years that we switch back and forth between the moon and the second light. Not quite for sure about that. But the moon probably didn't settle in place. It probably took another 7,200 years for it to completely settle in place. I think it was a slow moving and getting closer kind of thing. I don't think all this stuff happened overnight, but once it hit a certain point, boom, the flood happened. So, but when the moon first arrived, the pyramid grid wasn't shut off. It started amplifying that bad frequency. And that caused atmospheric and oxygen disruption, magnetic field instability, biological stress, crystal blood systems failing, and consciousness collapse. The civilization's own technology started killing them. And and I think this may have been why the giants were considered heroes of renown before, but as you can tell in like the story of Iliad and the Odyssey, ended up turning evil was because they had less oxygen and everything kind of changed their biology. So there's a good case that the giants were kind of good and bad, kind of like a mixture of humans, but after the moon kind of settled in, things really, really changed. All right. So I hope that maybe makes a little sense. If it doesn't, you can always note me down. But so I would definitely say that the Knowledge Keepers acted fast. The capstones were removed from major pyramids and internals were damaged. Göbekli Tepe was deliberately buried, and they disabled the transmitters to stop the amplified destruction, but the moon's frequency kept compounding. I mean, the pyramids may have been shut off, but that doesn't change what is still going on. The moon's gonna be disruptive. And it's a possibility that the pyramids could have remained active for a little while longer. But as I was talking before, I think they turned them off. I think they realized what was going on and they turned them off, and then the moon's interference just reached the critical threshold after 10,000 years. There was rapid oxygen drop, and this ended up triggering the flood. Maybe not necessarily the oxygen drop per se, but just the combined effects of everything of it basically led to the flood, the culmination. the giants suffocated. The bodies were too large for new O2 levels, so that's another reason why you see a lot of die-off of species, was most of them probably couldn't breathe. And the crystal blood eventually became non-viable, and only red blood survivors remained. In other words, the humans born after this started having the red blood. So we can't reactivate the pyramids yet because we still have the moon. But if the second light were to appear, then, like, once the second light is restored, we can reinitiate that system. And Channy talks about this, because in their timeline they won, and then things slowly started to change back over. So, but the grid isn't gone, it's just dormant. I mean, it would probably have to be rebuilt a little bit. You'd have to put the gold capstone back on and probably cover it with limestone again. But this is something to keep in mind for when the second light comes back. Which I don't know if that's going to be, like, it could take 3,600 years for that second light to appear. I'm expecting it to appear, but possibly the moon to stay a little bit, and then, like, they slowly shift places. And most likely the light is going to be from a planet, but it's going to be bright enough to cause effects. So yeah, the pyramids were a gift, and then a weapon, and soon a choice. But there you go. That's so. But the pyramids, basically, through the use of the ocean, because if you have one of them near the ocean, you can basically utilize the whole electromagnetic field with the ocean, and boom, you can create this energy with the pyramids. But we can't activate them right now, because it would probably put us in a frequency danger. Probably something like Tesla's idea might be more suitable and better. But as I said, next Monday we got the Sumerian king list decoded, how a 4,500-year-old clay tablet encodes the 7,200-year cycle, the 4,200,000-year constant, and the exact timeline we're living through right now. So there's that article, and I will see you next time, next Monday, for part 8. I will be releasing part 9 on X on Sunday, Friday. Sunday I'll also be doing a space at 7. Friday, Friday will be when I do a new lactoferrin video, that will go over the exact mechanisms on how lactoferrin works. So other than that, I hope you all have a good one. And the following has been a Jester production.